convention, otherwise we just leave the Pali text alone. So we use English words, and we use attention, sometimes we use mindfulness, sometimes we use awareness, sometimes we use bare awareness, but I think that there is some influence in that. Anyway, I think that I'm not sure the English words may correctly convey the significance of sati. No, just talking about sati, then we can see appamada, but sati itself. We have some definitions in suttas, so we have definitions in the commentaries, many more than these ones that I just shown. We have the English dictionary is not being constructed and elaborated in order to express the contemplations as we find in the Satipatthanas, for instance. The Mahasatipatthana Sutta is a text that talks about something that we don't find in the same way in other traditions. So if I use attention, of course I'm using a term that I use in my life. So I use attention, and for me attention has a meaning. For somebody else has a different meaning. There are people that can say attention also conveys fear, no? Pay attention, no? It's like just there is some fear in that, which is not present, of course, in Buddhism, you know, it's abhaya all the time, so it's the opposite of fear. So I can use attention, but it depends on whom I'm speaking to. And mindfulness is the same. Mindfulness now, the meaning is still changing nowadays, because we have the clinical applications, so we have yet another meaning for mindfulness. I think it might be used just to have a translation, but usually what I recommend, once one has a translation of a Pali text, the first thing to do should be to go back to the Pali text, because the translation is a compromise in any possibilities. Conventionally speaking, I agree on using attention of diligence for appamada, because appamada, the root is mad, no? So to be distracted, crazy, drunk, also, no? It's the same root of majja, to be drunk, and so on. So appamada is the opposite, so being really diligent, attentive, pay attention. For sati, sometimes we have also the meaning of memory, which is not so present in current interpretations of mindfulness. No? Sati is also the memory, remember things in the past and so on. This definition actually is a little higher than much higher, I would say, than the term mindfulness may possibly convey, because nobody, I think, by relying on an English dictionary, would interpret the word mindfulness as something having as the object or as the target Nibbana itself. So seeing sati as an instrument that focuses on some particular underpinnings, no? The pattanas or upattanas, as we want to interpret them, and directed to the end of samsara in a due time or in a short time, well, this is something that we don't have in any tradition conveyed by the English language. So we know that we are using a compromise. For instance, we have compromises all the time. When my parents came to see Thailand, for me it was a little difficult to explain that the stupa is not a church. A stupa is a chedi and so on, and so the dome. And then they asked me, okay, where is the cross? No, there is no cross here. No, we don't. But of course, we know and we interpret according to our experience. And language actually is the result of that experience. The language comes later. I called a computer because of some reason. Actually, the name computer is because it was used to calculate, no? Firstly. So now we still use computer even if I use for video games. I should call it a gamer, no, maybe would be better. But we change, no, the terms. We need to use compromises. So sometimes the old meaning is lost. For me, it's okay to translate sati with mindfulness. We can even use awareness. For instance, I agree. I don't have any objection, but I prefer to have in mind the interpretations given in the suttas themselves in the Abhidhamma literature. For instance, in the Abhidhamma, in the Dhammasami, there is a net of synonyms related to sati. So I would use them all the time, or all the explanations that we find in the commentaries. So these are the guidelines. Then we use the translation, but the translation doesn't give the meaning. The translation mostly gives a book, no more than that, I think. This is my humble opinion.
Yeah, thank you very much for your complete explanation. And I hope that we may assume when mindfulness has been translated as either bare attention or bare awareness, it is from some sort of non-Buddhist background, and especially in the MBCT and MBSR. Is it correct?
Okay, I think it is quite used now in the mindfulness-based stress reduction protocols.
Mindfulness-based cognitive
It is used in that,
therapy.
but I think that counts before. I think that there is also some influence from Vedanta, for instance. And I guess, though it is one of my favorite authors, but I think he was a little guilty in that Krishnamurti influenced a lot the use of bare awareness. So the idea that actually you don't need an object, but you need only bare awareness, I think that also it comes from the influence of authors like Krishnamurti, some influence from Vedanta and other teachers in the past centuries actually conveyed Indian philosophy to the West. So I think this is the reason why we have mostly bare awareness. But in this moment, at least to my mind, there is no term in Pali or in Sanskrit that may actually be translated literally as bare awareness, naked awareness. There is always something that actually, even when awareness, when sati or similar terms, even panya itself or jnana, for instance, are used as a source of light, jyotika, jyoti, and so on, when they are aloka, for instance, even when they are used in this sense, they illuminate something. They have an object. So they are a light that doesn't depend on the object. This is true. So in the Satipatthanas, sati doesn't depend on the patthanas, doesn't depend on the objects, but as the objects. So I think the bare awareness doesn't apply very well to a possible interpretation of the teachings of the Buddha, according to me. Maybe it can be a kind of a skillful means, because I think that somebody may be attached to some parts, could be aversion and so on, and sometimes being saying bare awareness is like saying be aware twice. No, be aware, be aware. No, like you repeat in a way. If you say bare awareness, it's like to say don't think. Try not to think. Yeah, but I was thinking that. No, don't think. Okay, bare awareness. No? So it's like to say only awareness. So in this case, it may work. But it doesn't mean that there is no object or that is not actually in a setting.
For your interesting presentation, I'm Nimala from International Theravada Buddhist Missionary University from Yangon. And I have two questions. The first one is, you mentioned that commentaries is an Asian tradition. So how Asian is it? What I mean is, when did commentaries come into existence? This is the first question. And the second one is, what is the first and foremost commentaries to the Pitaka, to the Tipitaka? Thank you.
Okay, about the first question, according to the tradition, the commentaries were born almost together with the Tipitaka. So the necessity to interpret the Tipitaka came just after the first council, and we had them from the very beginning. We don't know that for sure, but I think that there are many elements to say that actually Buddhaghosa had a lot of material at disposal when he wrote the commentaries. They were written by Buddhaghosa because sometimes the references actually are later references, so we can see that Buddhaghosa was writing the Atthakathas themselves. Nevertheless, I think also he claims himself that that was an old tradition, and that there was no reason not to say that he was the author. No. So actually he said, no, I'm not the author, but I'm re-elaborating material. So how ancient is difficult to say. I don't know if this can be traced back to the Parinibbana of the Buddha, but I don't think that it is too far. And I think this is a little connected with the second question. We have interpretations. We have a lot of paracanonical exegetical literature, but we have interpretations of, we have grammatical interpretations, we have interpretations of meanings of compounds and so on in the suttas themselves. So I think that the need of interpreting the teachings, now we have the two levels from the very beginning, Sankirtana, Vitarena. Now the Buddha himself first gives a teaching in short, then the Buddha gives a second teaching, Vitarena, expanded, or another disciple, Sariputta and so on, gives the teaching Vitarena. This is, in a way, is like the rationale also for the Abhidhamma literature, for texts like the Patisamhita Magga. So we can say that the style and the remedy to the misunderstanding of the teachings started very soon, because in the suttas we already have some misunderstanding of some teachings and then the correction. No? So that we have the correct interpretation or an expanded teaching on that particular topic. So this is one of the elements that they would convince us that commentaries started very soon. I'm not one of those who like so much the stratigraphy, like giving a historiographical location of the layers of the composition of the text. There are scholars who like that. I'm not one of them. I prefer to focus on the contents usually, because sometimes when some of these interpretations are based on the styles, I don't find them convincing, because the style may change due to many reasons. Now there is also, in the past century, there was the tendency of interpreting the Tipitaka itself as composed of different layers, the suttas themselves, like the same sutta. Oh, okay. Very short. Because this sutta, the single sutta, could be made of different layers. So one part was compounded, one century, the other part another century, just because the style is different. But according to me, this doesn't make sense, because this just means that some sentence could have been rewritten in a different way, or some style could be used sometimes, and we don't know that. So in this case, I'm afraid I cannot give a clear answer about the time of the composition of the Atthakatas. First, because I can't. Second, because I don't want. This is the... Thank
you. Thank you for questions and answers. Thank you so very much, Dr. Giuliano Terenis, for pointing out the significance of Atthakatha, though in some cases it should be criticized. You have enlightened us greatly with the information in your paper. Pali commentary is a living tradition in this country, so we are deeply grateful for your contribution today. Now, I would like to invite you to come down and be stood in front of the stage to receive the certificates and presents. To present the certificates, I would like to invite Venerable Jandima, Chief Administration of SSBU. Venerable sirs. Please rejoice. Our next speaker is Dr. Chudipat Tantarapon. So I would like to welcome him. Dr. Chudipat Tantarapon completed a medical doctor at Chulalongkorn University of Thailand and a master degree in business management and administration at Birmingham, United Kingdom. So you have 55 minutes for your presentation and 10 minutes for questions and answers. Please present your paper.
Okay, well, firstly, I would like to pay the respect to the Venerable to introduce me. And secondly, I would like to pay all my respect to Venerable Pra Ajahn Dr. Khammai Dhammasami, who gave me this opportunity to be a little part of this ceremony here today in an occasion of his birthday. And also, I would like to say that today I am very glad that I have an opportunity to be here today again. And first of all, before going to talking about the topic that I was given today, I'd like to briefly introduce myself again and related to the topic that I was given. And also brief detail about the Oxford Buddha Vihara in United Kingdom that later on I will use the abbreviation for OBV. Okay. I first met Pra Ajahn Khammai when I went for his retreat in Thailand in May 2016 this year. I spent 3 days for his retreat in Thailand, even though it was quite a short period of time, but it really made a big change in my life, where I could pick up some of the knowledge where he has taught me that time, and also to put it into practice. Afterward, I decided to go to ordain and staying at the OBV for 3 months during the Vasa period. I stayed there since July until the late of October this year. During that time, I had a lot of opportunity to accompany Pra Ajahn Khammai to travel around UK or even around European countries. That is why today I am assigned to talk about the missionary activities of Venerable Pra Ajahn Dr. Khammai Dhammasami in Britain and in European countries. About the brief detail of the OBV, there are 6 permanent resident monks staying at the OBV at the moment. 3 of them are Thai. 1 of them are Burmese monk, and 1 is Thai, and the last one is the British. And also we have got some few visiting monks staying at the OBV who just go there in the purpose of studying. Some people who just came for studying in English for just a short period of time, like 3 months or 6 months. Or some monks, they come for studying in master or PhD. The OBV has been established for 13 years already, since 2003 by Venerable Pra Ajahn Dr. Khammai Dhammasami. At that time, he was a second year of PhD student at the Oxford University. So, to begin with, I would like to start with the important missionary activities of Pra Ajahn Khammai in Britain first. So to make it clear enough, I will make it into 3 categories, like in the slide. The first one is the annual activity, and the second one is the particular occasion activities. The last one is the meditation retreat. For the annual activities, we usually do the summer ordination like in our countries, but just different period of time. Over there, we do around July of every year and sometime in August, which is particularly for the children who are interested either to ordain or only receive the 8th precept. Spending some time staying over at the monastery. The purpose is to give them an opportunity to practice in Buddhism while they are living abroad. Because basically, these children, they are originally Thai, Burmese, or Thai, or some children they are Sri Lankan. But because of the evacuation, so their family moved to United Kingdom and has lived over there for a while, so that they have no opportunity to practice in Buddhism anymore. From time to time, the number of the children who have come and joined us in the summer ordination become greater and greater every year, roughly around 10 to 15. That is the most number that we can accommodate the children in the monastery, because all of the children need to stay over at the monastery. In addition, we let them to follow our routine schedule as is shown in the slide. We start having the breakfast 6:30 in the morning. That is really difficult for the children to wake up before 6:30 because they need to prepare themselves and need to be ready by 6:30. That is the first lesson that we have to face with. And later we have the morning chanting at the 7:30 as we do as usual. And then we have a Pali chanting class practice, teaching by the Venerable staying over there. And after that, we lead them to do some guided meditation session based on Metta mindfulness meditation, which can be Karuna or Mudita mindfulness meditation. And later we have lunch at 11:30 or 11. And this is the second lesson that we teach them, that we have only 2 meals a day, not 3 meals, because we don't have dinner, and also they don't have dinner as well. That is much more difficult than to let them wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning. And after the lunch, we lead them to do some relaxation meditation. That is the most interesting thing for them. And we give them some free time and they can relax and do whatever they like. And at the evening, we do evening chanting at 6:30 and at 6:30 in the evening. By teaching them to living in the community happily, so we lead them to learn to be giving and sharing for each other, not only taking from the other people. In addition, to be able to teach the Buddha message to the children is much difficult, because we have to create a new particular way to approach the Buddha message for them. It may sound really complicated when you're talking about the Buddha message with the children, because they may say it is very boring. And one of the most interesting thing is like when Pra Ajahn Khammai give a Dhamma talk to the children. It's like a miracle, because all the children, they all pay attention, they sit still and stay still. And they have a good concentration towards the Dhamma talk of Pra Ajahn Khammai, where it looks really contradict to their habit. So that is the picture show you some activities for the summer ordination that we do over there.